The time is 4:30. This is WKYT This Morning, and Election Day is finally here. We'll have a look at how the presidential candidates made their final pitches for the votes in key states.
And we're tracking Kentucky's heated Senate race between Lexington Mayor Jim Gray and Senator Rand Paul. We'll follow the candidates' campaign across the Commonwealth.
And firefighters in Laurel County are still trying to put out a fire that destroyed a farm supply business. What firefighters say is fueling that fire. And your Election Day forecast on WKYT This Morning.
This is WKYT This Morning.
Good morning. Kentucky mornings start right here on WKYT, including Election Day, which it is. I'm Bill Bryant.
And I'm Andrea Walker. It is Tuesday, November 8th. Is that important for some reason?
It's a big one.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, by the end of the day, everybody, it's all going to be over.
Yeah, right.
I think people are excited.
It's going to be interesting. Weather should cooperate very nicely if you're heading out to the polls today. Let's check in with meteorologist Micah Harris.
Yeah, and for the most part, you're not going to see any chance of rain. If I do expect some rain during polling hours, it's going to be late into the day, 5, 6 p.m., and that's where I could see that. But other than that, most of it actually comes later on tonight. Frankfurt at 45 degrees. It's a bit of a chilly start as you walk out the door early this morning. There by 6 a.m. here in an hour and a half when those polls actually open, we'll be right there around that 45, 46 degree reading. So it's going to be a little bit chilly. Late rain chance, though. I'm going to take you hour by hour. I'll show you when I expect most of it to move on in, coming up in a few minutes.
All right, thank you. We've all lived through it. After a year and a half of rallies, debates, and controversies, it all comes down to today. Millions of voters will have their say on this election day.
Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump spent election eve trying to reach as many voters as they can in those all-important battleground states. Wee Jang has the latest on Campaign 2016.
Some of the biggest stars in politics and pop culture joined Hillary Clinton at Independence Hall for a last-minute push for votes in the battleground state of Pennsylvania.
America's best days are still ahead of us if we reach for them together.
Clinton will hold another star-studded rally at midnight in North Carolina, where she's tied with Donald Trump. Trump also campaigned in Raleigh.
Now it's up to the American people.
He needs the state's electoral votes to help him win the White House. Trump's tour of 5 battleground states ends tonight in Michigan with running mate Mike Pence.
We are just one day away from the change you've been waiting for your entire life.
Both presidential candidates will watch the election night returns in New York City. Clinton's headquarters will be here at the Javits Convention Center, and Trump's will be at a hotel just over a mile away. Clinton has an advantage in the Electoral College thanks to reliably Democratic states, something Trump would need to overcome.
What he's got to do is flip places like Florida for himself, like Ohio, and then also not just North Carolina, but maybe one of those reliably blue states.
We'll know how some of those states will go when the polls start closing at 7 p.m. Eastern Time tomorrow. Wee Jang, CBS News, New York.
Republican U.S. Senator Rand Paul and his Democratic challenger Jim Gray had a busy day of campaigning across the Commonwealth yesterday.
The two men made multiple stops around the state yesterday. Senator Paul predicted big Republican victories in Kentucky today, while Gray said he'll bring some change to Washington. WKYT's Garrett Weimer continues our Campaign 2016 coverage.
Greeted by a home crowd in the city he serves as mayor, Jim Gray again attacked Rand Paul with what's become a colorful catchphrase of his.
I reject the extreme, wild-ass ideas and theories and philosophies of Rand Paul.
Pledging to end Washington gridlock, Gray said Paul is part of the problem. He urged supporters to get out and vote.
You guys have brought us this far. And now what we know is every vote counts.
Jim Gray's Lexington rally was his 9th and final campaign stop of the day. Rand Paul also traveled all over the Commonwealth, making 8 stops.
Rand Paul.
Wrapping up the day in Bowling Green, Paul talked about the role of government.
The one thing that our founding fathers understood was that power is a corrupting influence. That we don't want too much power centralized in Washington. We don't want too much power centralized in the hands of one person.
Paul also talked about the presidential race throughout the day, calling Hillary Clinton dishonest. In Louisville, he predicted big conservative victories across the Commonwealth including a Republican takeover of the state house.
Kentucky is poised to become a conservative state for the rest of our lives starting tomorrow.
Polls open at 6 a.m. In Lexington, Garrett Weimer, WKYT.
Now, here is what else we'll be tracking on this election day. In Kentucky's 6th congressional district race, incumbent Republican Andy Barr will face Democratic challenger Nancy Jo Kemper. Democrats and Republicans will also be battling for control of Kentucky's State House in Frankfort, which has had a Democratic majority since 1921. Democrats currently have a 6-seat advantage. As for voter turnout, Kentucky Secretary of State Allison Lundergan Grimes is predicting 60% of the state's registered voters will be heading to the polls today. Stay with WKYT throughout the day for complete election coverage. We'll have special coverage on air, online, and on our Facebook page. We'll have the first results on air when the polls close at 6 o'clock tonight. You'll also find a complete list of results on WKYT.com.
Firefighters have worked through the night fighting a fire that damaged a Laurel County business. The fire started late yesterday afternoon in a storage building at Binge Farm Supply on East 4th Street in London. Firefighters say hay inside that building has been fueling the fire. WKYT's Monique Blair has the latest.
Right now I'm standing behind Binge Farm Supply's main building, and what you see burning behind me here is actually several dozens of barrels of hay and some farm equipment.
Actually, we saw the black smoke before we were paged out. We were outside the fire department, saw something, and we're heading this way already.
More than 50 firefighters worked to contain the fire.
Got over and discovered it wasn't only hay, it was some farm equipment as well. It was all in a covered building. And
City of London Fire Department Captain Tony Brown says there is no reason to believe this fire is suspicious, but at this time they don't know how it started. He says that investigation won't begin until this fire is out. The good news, he says, is that no one was hurt.
All the workers were around it, but no one was inside or anywhere that close where they would be injured.
Now, firefighters say although they do have this fire contained to this area right now, there's a good chance that they will still be out here Tuesday morning because there are just so many barrels of hay that it will take a while to put this fire completely out. In London, Monique Blair, WKYT.
According to Binge Farm Supply's website, the company has been in business since the 1920s and in London since the 1930s. Again, the main building was not affected by this fire.
We've learned the names of 3 people killed in a crash in Bell County. State police say 32-year-old Brian Redmond, 32-year-old Kendra Redmond, and 4-year-old Kelsey Redmond died in that crash yesterday afternoon on US 25E near Pineville. They say the cars hit the back of a tractor trailer that had broken down on the side of a road. Police are still trying to figure out exactly what led to the crash.
Firefighters in eastern Kentucky are still battling dozens of wildfires this morning. The Kentucky Division of Forestry says there were 21 active fires yesterday morning and 21 new fires broke out. Firefighters put out 7 of them. They say more than 15,000 acres have been burned. The Kentucky National Guard has been helping put out some fires by using helicopters to drop water from above.
And when they fill the bucket up with 660 gallons of water, they'll fly over the fire. And one of the National Guard people in the helicopter will push the black button here. And by pushing the black button, releases this cable, and the bottom of the bucket will release and open up.
Now, of course, these fires can be hard to see because of all the smoke, so the National Guard uses infrared sensors on the helicopters which detect differences in heat. That helps them find the exact location of the fires.
In Harlan County, the judge executive says more than 8,000 acres are still burning. At last check, county leaders there say the largest fire is between Nolensburg and the Dion communities. They say that forestry crews are also setting some controlled burns in the forest to try to get rid of fallen trees and other debris that can fuel the wildfires. It's been a real challenge. Time this morning is 4:39 on WKYT, and we're just getting started with the latest news on Election Day morning.
Still ahead, President Obama is considered to be the first social media president. But what will happen to his accounts after voters choose a new commander-in-chief? We'll find out right after Micah's forecast.
We do have a rain chance in the forecast for today, but when does it arrive? Because it's not for everybody during polling hours. We're going to go over that with that cold front on the way. Coming up next.
Now, your hour-by-hour forecast with meteorologist Micah Harris.
It's a pretty chilly start this morning. We're walking outside in the 40s, so as you're heading out to vote here in just about an hour, hour 15, you're going to be running in some pretty chilly conditions. You'll need that coat this morning. You can get rid of it by this afternoon. We're 48 degrees right now in Lexington, 45 in the capital city of Frankfort. We head down south over toward the east. Doesn't matter where you go, holding on to the 40s for the most part, and even some locations now dipping into the upper 30s. Defender Radar Network, nothing going on now. Here's the deal for today. As we go through your day hour by hour, the breakdown is this: only a slight chance of rain through your day. Once we hit that 6 p.m. hour, I would say, and that's when polls close. Remember, they're open from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. When they close, I would expect maybe a shower or two around. There's the possibility, but for the most part, the majority of this rain actually comes during the nighttime hours. Anywhere from 9 to about midnight is when they arrive into the region, and then they'll go overnight and then fade into tomorrow morning. Now, behind that is going to be very chilly air. So watch this. Let me walk you through it. And here we go through the day, okay? There's 7 a.m., 8 a.m. Everything looks good. You see a few showers here and there. Now, remember, this isn't set in stone. That doesn't mean that Casey County, Taylor County, Adair County, you guys are going to get rain at 5 p.m. It just shows you that there's that slight possibility. Obviously, most of us, virtually all of us, will be dry. Just can't rule out a slight chance during the polling hours, but the majority comes during the night. There's 9 p.m., 10, 12. There you go, and you can see that where the majority of the rain is around us. So that's when most of us are asleep, headed to bed, maybe watching the polls, watching the numbers come on in right here on WKYT, and that will slide southbound. And once that happens, then it moves on out before most of us wake up, and so we'll still have at least a chance down toward the southeast. But I want to show you this. Look toward tomorrow afternoon. Here's 4 p.m. tomorrow afternoon. Talking upper 40s, lower 50s. Remember, I talked about there's 2 cold fronts yesterday. One is tonight into tomorrow morning. You will absolutely feel it on Wednesday. And then one comes toward the weekend. Watch this in my 7-day forecast. So tomorrow, remember, very, very cold day. Then we hit Thursday and Friday. We rebound fairly nicely. It's still going to be pretty chilly there in the mid-50s. Friday night football will be very cold, and then we hit Saturday. Look at Saturday, maybe the coldest air so far this fall. Now, I'm not completely sold on that. Not completely sold that we'll end up in the 40s, but nonetheless, that's what the weather models are reading right now. So we'll see. I'm actually leaning more toward the 50s. So tomorrow you may see a 50-degree reading, but nonetheless, trust me on this. Whether it's 46 or whether it's 50 degrees, you're going to have a coat all day long on Saturday. It's going to be a very, very cold day, especially if you were up north, up toward the northeast. That's where the coldest spot will be. But nonetheless, I mean, we got some chilly air on the way.
All right. Prepare
That's
accordingly.
all right. That's all right.
Well, it's the time of the year. All right, Micah, thank you. It's 4:45 right now. This election, of course, has been like no other, especially when it comes to social media. Presidential candidates have used Twitter to insult and sometimes inspire.
That's true, but after voters choose a new president, what happens to President Obama's social media accounts? Mary Maloney has the answer.
President Obama is considered to be the first social media president. He's used Facebook, YouTube, and Snapchat. Of course, we can't forget his Twitter account, @POTUS, an account former President Bill Clinton famously asked, "Does that username stay with the office?" #asking for a friend. When the POTUS moves out of the White House, his social media accounts will stay for the new president to use. Here's how it will work. The Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and similar social media accounts will keep the current followers, usernames, and URL. But the timeline will have no posts, meaning the new president will be able to start from scratch. If you're feeling nostalgic and want to read old tweets and other social media musings from President Obama, you'll be able to. The president's archived tweets will be on the new Twitter handle @POTUS44. Other archived social media posts will also have new 44 usernames. And just like past presidents, the National Archives and Records Administration will preserve emails, notes, and now posts. For Consumer Watch, I'm Mary Maloney.
Interesting.
So now you know.
Yeah.
It's a new day. You have to preserve those records in different ways. WKYT this morning on the air with all the latest. And we're coming back with so much more here on your Tuesday, Election Day, now 4:47.
Still ahead on WKYT, they say they feel helpless. A group of teenage girls in Lexington say they were assaulted at a business. We'll hear their side of the story when we come back.
Kentucky mornings start here. You're watching WKYT this morning.
Welcome back to WKYT This Morning. Now, this next story has a lot of people talking on social media. They say they just went inside to use the restroom, but some teenage girls tell us they were assaulted at a Lexington restaurant by some of the workers.
Yeah, and they say that this assault was racially motivated. Lexington police say they're now investigating all of the circumstances, and WKYT's Monique Blair has the story.
On Saturday, around 7 o'clock, a group of teenage girls was having a downtown photo shoot when they stopped into Portofino's to quickly change their clothes.
As we were leaving, the manager comes over and he grabs me like this and he says, "Let me see what's in your bag."
17-year-old Queen Gates says the manager, a white man, accused the girls of stealing a waitress's jacket. Gates says the waitress then walked up and made a comment about her jacket being stolen.
There were only black people in here. They had to steal it.
Gates says she and her friends immediately felt they were being racially profiled by both the waitress and the manager.
For our skin to make it like we stole something just because we're the only black people inside the place, that was it.
After showing the manager inside her bag and that she did not have the jacket, Gates says she and her friends left. Just a few moments later, Gates says the waitress came outside yelling racial slurs, and the manager again demanded to see inside Gates's bag. She says when she showed him what was inside her bag, she says he still pulled her hair and pushed her to the ground. At that time, Gates says her friend Crystal Flowers tried to step in to help, but she says the manager punched Crystal and pushed her off of him, leaving a mark on her face. A few moments later, police showed up.
Us being black, we don't want to scare people because of our skin.
Police tell us they are investigating this incident and are taking the allegations seriously, but have received conflicting statements as to how Flowers' injury happened. We reached out to Portofino's but have not heard back. The owner released a statement to the Herald Leader saying, quote, "For 25 years, our restaurants have been supporters of diversity and tolerance. If there is a problem, we'll find it and fix it," end quote. Nobody has been charged at this time. Gates says at this point she feels helpless.
But they can scream racial slurs at someone, and they can do that to people, and they can treat someone that way, and it doesn't matter.
In Lexington,
he hated us, and he didn't even know us.
Monique Blair, WKYT.
And Lexington police say a fourth-degree assault report was taken and is being investigated.
Time now is 4:52 on your Tuesday, and if you're stressed out about the election, doctors say you are not alone.
The American Psychological Association finds more than half of voters surveyed say the presidential election is a significant source of concern. And doctors say they have seen high levels of stress among both Democrats and Republicans. They say this kind of stress can lead to heart palpitations and even difficulty sleeping.
So a person may have uncontrollable anxiety, uncontrollable worry, uncontrollable fear that what is going to happen if A or B wins or loses.
Doctors suggest taking frequent breaks from social media, going for a walk, playing with a pet, and avoiding political debates with family and friends. Probably all good
That's one
ideas.
thing I have been thinking about. I'm like, my social media feed's going to be so much like I can get through it in no time with no elections to talk about. That's the only thing you see anymore.
Well, there'll be plenty to talk about afterward. There's no doubt about that. Then you have a transition, and then, you know, whatever the winner wants to try to do. So there you go.
It's not over yet, people.
Got it. Coming up on 4:54, and we're going to take a look at some of the stories our news team is working for you on this morning.
And we'll have another look at your morning forecast. It's Election Day coming right up.
Good morning. Welcome back in. WKYT This Morning, live from Lexington at 4:57 here on Tuesday, Election Day. Our newsroom very busy, getting ready for Election Day, of course, following the trends throughout the day and the results tonight.
And we will, of course, see how the presidential candidates are making their final pushes for votes coming up at the top of the hour right here on WKYT.
Good Election Day weather. Let's check in with Mike as we head toward the 5 o'clock hour.
Yeah, you know, for the most part, I don't see much of a chance of rain today. There is a slight chance later on this afternoon of seeing maybe a couple of showers, but for the most part, it's going to be later on this evening off into the night. So we start off very chilly if you're about to take off. Grab that coat later on this afternoon. You can get rid of it once again today. We're going to go hour by hour with that forecast coming up with another 2 hours. WKYT News.